Yeah, so the first thing I noticed that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to set up a max width of 800 pixels. And you can see that kind of thing happening here with the container has been set to a max width of 800 pixels. We've also set a min width to 500 pixels. I think the min width to 500 pixels will stop the table from collapsing when you try and reduce the size of the window. So that's one thing that you need to do there for today's exercise. So image column being 25%. So this is the product details page. So product details. If we open that with our code, what we are doing is the photo there. We see the width is 25% of the So what this means is it's going to be 25% of the width of the element in which it is inside. So the product photo actually is an ID which lives inside another, well, if we find it in here, product photo, yeah, that lives inside container. So product photo is going to be 25% of the container, and container is this 800 pixels. So instead of being 200 pixels, which we set the product photo to before when we did the fixed width layouts, this time we're doing a variable width layout. And then if we look at that, what we get is we get something that compresses. And so you see that image actually changing its size. So that's happening there with the 25% that we've done in the style here. A width of 25%. If you look at that point back when we did it in the previous exercise, that would have been set to a number of pixels, 200 pixels, I think. And so we changed the 200 pixels to 25%. Basically, there's going to be a few of these 25%, these percent things. And the other thing that we did is, as you saw there, we have a max width and a min width sort of thing sorted out here. So the min width is so that our tables don't collapse into something that goes over multiple lines. I mean, that was a requirement in here. That didn't go over multiple lines. And the max width is so that, we see when we stretch out that page that it doesn't take up the entire container that it's in. If I get back again, let's go. So you see we end up with all this space around it. Okay, so there's our actual page. It's got all that gray stuff. But the actual container is got a max width here of 1,000, and so that makes it just sort of kind of look a little better. So probably need to let some more people in or something. I don't see that. Okay, so I hope that sort of makes sense. So that's going on there. Make sure the display is always 3 columns. So what are we doing with this one? Product listing page will have 3 columns. Products, the size of the items will change depending on the width of the screen, but will be controlled by the main. So again, this is going to have a max and a min width. And so let's have a look at how that's achieved. Okay, so that's the product list. Let's open that with that code. And so what we see then again is we have a max and min width for the page. Sorry, back to my code. This is product, yes. And what do we got for it? So inside that, we've got our product image. So the width is auto for the image. We've got a max height. We're using the VW, variable width. Okay, so the product is set to, we've done this thing here with the width of the product class. We've set that to 31%. And I think a little bit of simple math, you realize that product is going to be inside this container thing, I guess. And the container, if the container is 100%, 31% is roughly 1/3. 1/3 with a little bit over. The little bit over, so the 2%, because, you know, to get exactly 3 into 100% would be 33.3%. So the the 2.3%, what that is going to be is that is going to be our sort of channels that are between the images. And so that's kind of how you do that one. And, you know, there's our margins. Those margins don't add up to more than the 2. So they're pretty close to the 2%, aren't they? So we've got a little, and there's our channels there by the margins. So we got 31% times 3. That's going to be 93%. And then we got our 2 margins. So times that by 3 is 6. It's going to be 97%. We're pretty tight in the way that works. So that's nice. Also, if I go back and have a look at that, so what we end up with is a page that, see the images getting smaller as I get the page smaller. They stay all nicely formatted within the image gets smaller, and also the little box gets smaller, and that's achieved by these percents and auto width and max height, etc. All of that is doing those things for us. So that's kind of how that's happening. That's all happening in there in the product class and in the product, in product image, setting the max height and the width to auto. The container has also got this maximum and minimum width to it. So that's so we can't crunch. You notice, the minimum width, we noticed we couldn't crunch this down any smaller than that, right? That's our minimum width coming into play, the 600 pixels. The 1000 pixels max, we see that when we try and expand the window out wider. The actual page itself won't take up more than, the white part won't take up more than 1000 pixels. And so that's nicely for us. So that's our container inside there, inside the body. Remember, the body was styled with a background of gray, and then the container was styled with a background of white. So there's our background of white for the, and we set our margins auto. So that's kind of how that's been working. The font size, look at that. We've got a variable font size. How does that work? If you have a look here, what's happening? Do you see, look at the phone products. Do you see the actual font is getting smaller? Isn't that cool? Okay, so that's achieved with this variable font width. That's kind of cool. That's kind of what we're working with there, right? So we've got variable font widths. We've got variable widths of our classes that we're doing with this kind of thing. That's a class that we've set up there. Basically, you're taking the stuff that you had before and you're sort of editing it to make it work better. And I hope that sort of works out for you. All right, so any questions on that? I'm gonna stop talking. I think I've basically shown you it all. Stop talking on that and see if there's any questions.